Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name is Kayla. I am the placement coordinator here at National Training. We're going to have a wonderful guest, Mr. Jim Hammond with TransAm, on in just a few minutes. He was having some audio problems, so he should be on in just a moment. So while we wait on Mr. Jim, we are going to go through what I like to call the housekeeping. Again, my name is Kayla. You might be joining us on an iPad or a tablet, maybe your smartphone, or even a computer. We've got some new controls here that just started here recently, so they aren't exactly the same, but you'll kind of get the gist of what we're talking about here. So you're going to see your controls. You might have a phone icon or maybe a microphone. I will enable those microphones here in just a little bit so you guys can ask plenty of questions. In the meantime, if you have questions, there's also a question box, looks like this. You can utilize that while we're mid conversation here. So anytime you have any questions, it will notify me that you guys sent in a question or a chat. Um, I have all of the cameras disabled currently, just
Can you hear me
because
now?
we can't hear you, Jim.
Okay, I don't have the reverb anymore.
Very good. All right, so I was just kind of going over the controls here with everybody. The cameras I have disabled for everyone else just because it does kind of create a lag for those that might be in a more rural area. We want to make sure that they're able to hear and see everything that we've got going on tonight. In the meantime, all of our attendees, if you'll hit the little hand icon, just so I know that you guys can hear me, everybody will hit that hand icon wherever it will be. Timothy, I see you. Thank you very much. Jimmy, I see you. A couple more people throwing some hands up. Fantastic. And I can put all of those down in one little quick reaction here. All right. So while we keep on chugging along here, oh, wrong way. Bear with me for just a second. We have Jim Hammond on with us tonight. He's from TransAm. Thanks so much for joining us, Jim.
Not a problem. Enjoying it already.
All right, fantastic. I know we haven't done one of these together. I don't think you and I have done one together before. I've worked with TransAm in the past on a webinar, and you guys have been to the school. Why don't you start off with telling us a little bit about what you do for TransAm?
Well, I'm strictly the recruiter. I recruit in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and a little bit in South Carolina. I drove for Trans Am for 13 years and retired from the driving part about 6 years ago. So I try to talk to customers, not only, or not customers, but new CDL, students about the opportunities at Trans Am and give them information they can use, whether they come to work for us or go to work, for another trucking company.
Fantastic. I like when all of the recruiters that come in and talk with us have been in the driver's position as well, because you know what they're going through. So I really enjoy hearing about the recruiters that actually were drivers as well. So tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about.
I don't think I could recruit if I hadn't done it. That would have been kind
Yeah,
of tough because any questions that would be asked, I wouldn't have a clue.
yeah, absolutely. That's a good point for sure. Well, tell us a little bit about Trans Am and what drivers can expect coming to work for your company.
Well, Trans Am's been in business since the late 80s, and we're known in the trucking industry as meat haulers. We go into the slaughterhouses and pick up the slaughtered cattle. They've been butchered and shrink wrapped and put in cardboard cases and then put on our refrigerated trailers. So our whole fleet is refrigerated, and we run from the Midwest west all the way out to the I-25 corridor, which is Cheyenne, Wyoming, Denver, Colorado, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then we come east all the way to the eastern seaboard. And then once we deliver these meat loads to most of the places where you would go to buy steak or ground beef, we go to the actual distribution centers rather than the neighborhood stores. But then we grab other loads going back. And so when we come into Florida, we usually go back with orange juice. If we go into Georgia, we pick up carpet out of Dalton from Shaw and Mohawk. When we go into North Carolina, we pick up furniture and brick. And in
Okay.
Pennsylvania, we go in and get we go into paper mills and get big rolls of paper and head back. So we're running basically east and west, and we have three types of drivers. We have company drivers, that make up about 35% of our fleet. And then we have independent contractors that are either drivers leasing our trucks or owner-operators that already own their own trucks and come to work for TransAm. So we have a broad scheme of different types of drivers and the pay plan and everything commensurate with that. And in the last 4 years, we started adding regional, dedicated, and local, which we didn't have back when I drove finished driving 6 years ago. So we now have over-the-road, regional, dedicated, and local.
Very nice. Yeah, because we get a broad range of students that come to our school looking for different things. So it's nice when they have companies like yours that they can kind of do a variety of different things with.
When they're driving over the road, they're out on the road 24, 25 days out of the month, and they get 6 days home time. And our drivers pretty much average about 3,000 miles a week, and they get paid for all their miles loaded and empty.
Very nice. Yeah, that's a very valid point because a lot of people don't realize some companies don't pay you if you have an empty trailer. So that's nice that they do get that loaded or empty pay per mile. So what kind of pay rate are these drivers looking at right out of school?
Okay, right out of school, what we've done in the last year as we've gone to a graduated pay plan, in the trucking industry, you have a lot of turnover in the first 3 to 6 to 9 months because people are trying a company and then maybe going to another company and whatever. So what we do, we start a little low. We start at 31 cents a mile, but at 3 months it goes to 40. At 6 months it goes to 45. At 9 months it goes to 50 cents a mile, and at a year it goes to 55. So you're starting a little bit under $1,000 a week, but then by the time a year has gone by, you're above the national average, making $1,600 or $1,700 a week. If you're an independent contractor leasing a truck or an owner-operator, we start you at $1.07 a mile. It goes to $1.12 after 6 months, and so both of those are grossing over $3,000 a week, and they get paid on a 1099. So, they get all their money, but they have to pay quarterly estimated income tax, unlike customer drivers company drivers that get paid on a W-2.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I'm going to assume here you guys have all the different benefits, like dental insurance, health insurance, things like that.
That is correct. And I don't get into all that, but the thing they can do, we have a 913 number in Kansas. Our headquarters is in Olathe, Kansas, just south of Kansas City. We have a second terminal in Rockwall, Texas, about 30 miles east of Dallas, and then we have one in Tampa, Florida. But if they dial the number is 913-324-7100, and if they hit the option 2, they can go to the recruiting department and they can talk to them about all the health benefits, 401k, and they can also give them detailed information on the regional, dedicated, and local jobs that are available or how long they might have to run as over the road before something would open up in the area that they're hiring in from.
Perfect. I did just put that number in the chat for everyone so everybody can see that number and jot it down so you have it saved somewhere safely.
Our website is TransAmTruck.com, and you can go to that website and learn more about the company, and that's where we have our online applications. But one of the problems with online applications is we're at the mercy of what people put in there, and when they use their smartphones and tablets, we get a lot of typos. So if you're putting in a phone number or an email, I still recommend you call that 913 number after you put in the application. Give them your name, they can pull up the application, and then you're not at the mercy of them having a bad phone number because of a typo, and you sitting there wondering why TransAm isn't calling you back.
Absolutely. That's a good point, because I've done that myself. So that's a good point. Make sure you guys call after you fill out that online application for sure. Now, what are some driver requirements that TransAm looks for when hiring new drivers?
All right. The 3 basic requirements is they have to be 21 years of age or older. They have to have their Class A CDL. Now, on the CDL, you don't need a hazmat or a tanker endorsement. We're strictly refrigerated trailers. We don't do flatbeds or tankers. But the third thing I mentioned is you have to have a safe place to park the tractor and the trailer when you go home on home time, because after you deliver your last load before home time, we get you a load to get you close to home, and then you take the equipment home with you. Just as an example, when I started driving in 2004, I didn't realize that was the situation. I had plenty of room that I could have parked the truck on my property, but my neighbors would have shot me if I drove a rig down through the neighborhood. So I parked it at a church that I went to, got permission to park it there. That was in North Carolina. But when I moved to Florida, I didn't have that same luxury, so I parked it at a truck stop north or south of where I live here, just north of Daytona Beach, until I found a place called CubeSmart, and they let me rent a spot in the back that they had room for trucks. So you may know somebody that has a business, you may have a family member, or you may have some property. You just have to think ahead of time the fact that you're actually taking the tractor and the trailer home with you when you go on home time. And that's the biggest thing. Then we're a second chance type company. If there's something, we're going to run a background check. We're going to run your motor vehicle records. We're going to look at your work history. And if there's something there where some companies just say, hey, we can't hire you, what we do, we let you know what you need to do to take care of the situation so we can hire you. And we have about a 95% hiring record for those that want to come to work with us.
Very good. That's great, because we get people from all walks of life around here, and we want to make sure that everybody's employable. And I do know that you guys do hire quite a bit of our students, so we like that you guys do have that second chance opportunity as well.
Yeah, in this day and age, I mean, it's just one of those things where somebody may be trying to start over again, and we believe in very strongly in people having a second chance.
Absolutely. I really like that about you guys. Now, what about the equipment that you guys have? What kind of equipment does TransAm run?
Okay, when I first went to work, we were a Freightliner fleet in 2004, but in 2007, we started switching to Kenworth. So all our trucks now are the Kenworth T680s. And when we started ordering the Kenworths in 2007, we quit ordering straight drive transmissions. So all our trucks are now automatics. Okay. And, the trucks have PACCAR technology and the Eaton transmissions. They've got 2 bunks. You can have a rider on your truck. They just have to be 10 years old or older to be on your truck. You can team if you want. We're not a big teaming company, but we will never put 2 people together that don't know each other as teammates. If you want a team, we ask you to get somebody you already know and love and want to be in a truck with them. I mean, you're in the world's smallest apartment on wheels, and so I hope you get along with them pretty good. And then you have them get their training, get their CDL, come to us and get the training through TransAm, and then get on the truck. I didn't really speak about training. Back when I started driving, it was about a month before I got my truck. I went out on the truck with a trainer. We don't do that anymore. Everything's at our terminals, and you're there for 2 days orientation and 5 days of training, actually 4 days of training, and then test out on the 7th day. And when you take the test, it's basically, maneuvering and backing and whatever, and you got 3 chances to pass it twice. So if you fail it the first time, you're not out of luck. You got 2 more chances, and the test, I even passed it, so I'm sure they can too.
So it sounds like it's similar to like their CDL driving test that they do after school.
Right. The biggest thing when they're going through the CDL class, they'll get out and they'll drive on the road, and that's all well and good. But where people starting off have their biggest problem is close maneuvering and going into truck stops and rest areas and pulling into the fuel pumps, side swiping other vehicles and stuff. So really have your backing down. And then we work with you during that 4 days of training to make sure, we just make sure it's perfect before you leave out in one of our trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a lot different maneuvering in those truck stops and at deliveries than it is backing through some cones. So I can understand that.
Absolutely.
Sure. Now you mentioned rider policy. You said they have to be 10, correct?
I'm sorry, they have to be 10 years old or older to be on your truck. You can have one. I had a lady that had 2 granddaughters, and she wanted her granddaughters to come out. And I said, well, one of them can ride with you. The other one can go out the next time. You know,
Yeah.
one is one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a safety thing, a distraction factor as well.
And
Now, what about like a
back to
pet
the
policy?
back to the trucks. You know, they got the two bunks. They've got a
Mhm.
built-in refrigerator.
Okay.
They've got a slot for a microwave and a CB, a place for a TV on the wall. They've got a built-in inverter to plug everything in, and you can plug in, you know, the devices you need to charge and whatever. But one of the best things we have is behind the truck where there's a catwalk. Bolted underneath the catwalk on the passenger side is a generator. We call it an APU, an auxiliary power unit, and that
Uh-huh.
runs your heat and air conditioning in the truck when you're taking your break. Most jurisdictions won't allow you to idle trucks anymore because of environmentals, emissions, whatever. So
Yeah.
we provide that generator, and you're cool in the summertime, you're warm in the winter, and in the winter when it's cold and you know it could be 0 to -10 if you're up north somewhere. The good news is the coolant in that generator is running, in that APU is running through that engine and keeping the engine warm so you can fire up the diesel without having to idle the truck through the night and use up so much fuel.
That's awesome. I don't hear many companies doing that. That's pretty cool. Now, how old are your trucks?
Okay, in our company fleet, you won't see a truck over 3 years old. And when you come to as a company driver, you might get a truck that has 50 to 100,000 miles. You might get one that has 250,000 miles, but it won't be over 3 years old. Now, if you see a truck that's over 3 years old, it's either somebody on a long-term lease or somebody that owns the truck. But we
Gotcha.
cycle the trucks back to Kenworth after 3 years, and the best ones we keep on the yard. We have a corral that has 50 to 100 trucks that we actually sell used trucks to people coming out of a lease that want to buy a good used truck.
Nice. Very cool. All right, let's see here. Now, what about a pet policy? Do you guys have a pet policy? I always get that question.
We do. We don't have pets on our company trucks
Hmm.
just because there's a lot of turnover with company drivers. But when you're leasing a truck or an owner, of course, if you own your own truck, there is a pet policy. The thing is, we don't know if you're putting a putty cat on that truck or if it's a saber-toothed tiger. So we charge. It's a pretty hefty deposit, but it's fully refundable, minus any damage to the interior of the truck when you turn it back in because of the pet. So if you have
Gotcha.
a pet, you pretty much know whether it's going to damage the truck or not, and
Yeah,
we don't know that, so we have to kind of cover ourselves by having a deposit, and they go through all that at orientation.
absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Now, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to touch base on. Oh, military. Do you guys have any kind of military program?
Uh, we do hire military. No, I'm actually a veteran myself, and that's one thing we don't have yet. We don't have the thing where you get a certain amount of
Mhm.
experience level based on your military experience or whatever. And that's not saying that something might not come down the pike. I get emails every week where we have changes in policy. Again, that's
Absolutely.
something they can ask when they call that 913 number because the people
Uh-huh.
there can tell them if and when it's coming down.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know how that is. I feel like every time I talk to any recruiters, there's always something that's been updated. So I always like to ask questions about that.
Right.
Um,
Another thing is about our training. When you come to
mhm.
work at TransAm, you qualify for two things right out of the chute. Number one, during that 7 days training, you're paid $90 a day training pay. And the
Okay.
second thing is starting from day one, you qualify for reimbursement, uh, the CDL tuition that you paid up to $6,000. So what we do, we pay that back at $125 a month until we hit your number or 6,000, whichever is the smaller number.
Gotcha. Yeah, that good thing you said that because I meant to ask about tuition reimbursement. 'Cause that's cool. I mean, it helps pay for your schooling, especially now with you have to go to school to get a CDL. So that's great to hear. All right. Any other things you wanted to touch base on before we open up some phone lines for people to ask questions?
Let me think what I might be missing. Oh, when you're when you're a company driver, you get 6 days off a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to you as to when you take it. You just put in the computer and give us 8 days notice so we can get you home on time, but we can run you hard so you get your 3,000 miles even when you're going home.
Okay. So
All
like if
right.
they wanted to
And
go out a
basic,
week or 2 weeks and then take a day or
yeah,
two
like
off.
if you're out, well, what I used to do is like as soon as I came off home time, I kind of had an idea when I was going home the next time. So
Yeah.
as soon as I came out, I put the next one in. If you
There
want
you
to
go.
take like 2 weeks off in the summer to be with your family, the only way you can really do it, I used to take like from Memorial Day, I'd take the last 6 days of May and the first 6 days of June,
Mm-hmm.
and I had almost 2 weeks that way. If it was 4th of July, I'd take the last 6 days of June and the first 6 days of July. You could do that for Labor Day, and you could even do it at the Christmas holidays, the last 6 days of December, the first 6 days of January. But it's use it or lose it. If you think you're only going to take 4 days in October, but have 8 days in November, you're still only going to have 6 in November because the 2 you didn't take in October don't roll over. So there's no way to really save your days up.
Gotcha. That's a good point.
We want you to take your time off so you get out of the truck, can enjoy your family and not just be
Yeah.
driving a truck for 30. I mean, there's some people that'll drive 30, 60 days in a row and then they'll just take a week off, or they'll take, the 2 weeks off at the end and beginning of next month. But, I was one that took time off whenever I had an opportunity, and I had my golf clubs and my mountain bike on the truck, and I didn't necessarily have to be home to take home time. I'd
There
go
you go.
play golf somewhere out in the Midwest somewhere.
Yeah, we actually have students that we've had tell us they've done that. We've had teens that have come out of school and sold their house, and when it's home time, they just kind of get routed somewhere they haven't been.
Well, one thing about selling your house, if one of the things that's nice about having a truck, you've really got two residences. You've got your home
Yep.
and you've got the truck, and anything you duplicate in your truck that you have at home, you can pretty much write off. If you sell your home and your residence is your truck, what you need to do is go to one of those, it's not the UPS store or the U.S. Postal Service, but they have those places where you can actually have an address, like you have a residence.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a way kind of to get around it. But just think about that. You don't get to write off as much stuff if you don't have a house.
That's true. Very good point.
And one of the people they meet in orientation is a representative of an accounting firm that'll help them understand all the ins and outs of quarterly estimated income tax, the thing about they'll give them sheets on what things they can deduct and what they can't, having a truck, and what'll help them on their taxes. And what I always did, each year I kept a book, like a college ruled notebook, and I kept track of all my expenses, the places I went, the places I didn't want to go, and I just used that as my Bible. And if I never got audited, but if I had, all I had to do was turn that notebook in with my paperwork, and I'd be in like Flint. So it protects you as far as the IRS is concerned.
That's very good advice. I always tell people, especially right out of the gate, for the first first couple of months, keep track of every penny that you spend, and keep track of things like that. And like you said, use it like your Bible,
Well,
and live by it.
well, the other thing too is some people, when they come to TransAm, they see how much, they can basically double their money leasing a truck. But I recommend doing, 6 months as a company driver and build that foundation to your career before you add the piece about leasing a truck, because then you're kind of running your own show. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just makes sense to start off company, which everybody does. But sometimes there are people that go through the training and they find out there's a truck that they can get in and lease and double their pay right from the start. And some people are successful at it. Some people are not. And I'll just leave it at that.
Absolutely. Well, very cool. And let's see if anybody has any questions. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. And what I'll do is I just enabled everybody's mic. So just raise your hand and I can call on you. We can ask a question, or you can type it into the question box or the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Let's see here. As far as home time, there's a question on like your dedicated regional. What's the home time on that?
Okay, that's another reason I point them toward calling that 913 number.
Mm-hmm.
Regional, local, and dedicated is totally different from over the road. I never had any experience with it. And I know, like in some cases, like living here in Florida, we have regional or dedicated loads, say coming out of Bradenton, that are
Mm-hmm.
orange juice, say going to Chicago. And then after they deliver in Chicago, they drop down to, say, Logansport, Indiana, and pick up a Tyson's load coming home. And in that case, they might be home every 5 days and maybe be able to take 2 or 3 days off if that's what they want to do, or take a weekend off and then go back out on the road. So I really, if I tried to keep track of all the different things out there, I would never get anything else done because it's so dynamic and it changes every day. So that's why they're prepared at that 913 number, option 2, to answer questions and also email you answers to questions based on anything that you might want to know about regional, dedicated, or local. Okay?
Very good. Very good. Let me see here. There's another one in here. Where is orientation? And what if they're not comfortable to go solo at the end of 7 days?
Okay. That second question, there are people that stay an extra couple of days if that's what they want to do, if they
Okay.
feel they need it. Okay. And as far as orientation, it's either at the Texas location in Rockwall, which is 30 miles east of Dallas,
Okay.
or at the Tampa location. And the thing is, depending on where they are, we're going to probably send them to the closest one. Like, let's say they live in Florida, they're probably going to go to Tampa, unless when they're talking to TransAm, they're ready to start, say, after they get all the background check and everything. Let's say the student's ready to start on Monday, but the class is already full.
Mm-hmm.
TransAm is going to give them the opportunity to wait till the following week, or they'll say, hey, if we've got a slot open in Texas, do you want to go to Texas? So it's going to be up to the student and the applicant's decision based on availability and if there's a slot open. So, they don't have to wait till they have their CDL to put in the application. I recommend at least doing it 2 weeks ahead of time so we
Yep.
can get everything set up and get you in a class and so you can go to the closest location.
Yep. I absolutely preach that to our students on day one of class. I'm like, if you're not applying for jobs by the end of this week, you're behind. So
When
I
when I
definitely
got when I
preach.
got my CDL back in 2004, I got it on a Friday, and on Monday morning I caught the bus from Raleigh. I lived in North Carolina at the time, from Raleigh out to Kansas City. The only terminal we had back then was the one in Olathe. So I got my CDL on Friday, and on Tuesday or on Wednesday I was in my orientation for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So
There you
the sooner you can get in the application, they'll process it. You'll know before you even have the CDL, and then once you have the CDL, you'll be ready to, get out there, and everything's paid for. The bus ticket, the hotel. We pick you up in the morning at the hotel at about 7:15 after you've had a continental breakfast. We take you over to the terminal, and you're there all day. We cater lunch every day because there's no restaurants around the terminal, and then we get you back to the hotel by 5:30 in the evening, and there's plenty of restaurants. You're paid every Friday. The only Friday you don't get paid is the first Friday because you're always getting paid a week in arrears.
Gotcha. Very good. What about the 34-hour reset in home time? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, let's say you're picking up a load, and I always put in that I wanted to be home at 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever day I wanted to be home. That way we do our deliveries most of the time in the middle of the night between 4 and 8 in the morning. So they would get me a load, and then I'd be home by 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, the 34-hour reset set, if you're home 2 days, you've got your 34-hour reset when you come back out and you start a brand new 70 hours for an 8-day period. If you're on the road and I always looked at it this way. A lot of people like to run 11 hours a day. Well, I looked at an 8-day 70 hours, that's about 8 hours a day. So I drove like 8.5 hours a day, and I always had hours coming back after midnight after that 8th day. But if I ended up running 11, 11, 11, and I used up my log, I'd take my 34-hour reset out on the road, and I'd just play golf or go. Like in the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg, I made sure I was taking a load where I got through Gettysburg, and I got to be there for the weekend for the celebration of the 150th anniversary back in 2013. So there's all kinds of ways to do things. As you get out there and you get familiar with the routes we run, or, you know, with other companies, the routes they run, you'll get to where you think of this stuff just kind of automatically. And it sounds like Greek when I'm trying to tell you about it, but after you've been out there a little bit, it'll make perfect sense.
Very good. Awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions? I don't see any more hands up, but if you do, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll let Mr. Jim answer it for you real quick. But Jim, in the meantime, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. We look forward to having you here again. Come visit with the school. We'll get in touch with each other probably tomorrow. Get something set up for that as well. And
I'm sure Brianna will be contacting you to make sure I didn't shoot myself in the foot.
No, you did great. I really appreciate you joining us tonight. And let me see, I think we got one more question. What and how much is layover pay and stop pay?
Okay, when you're picking up a load, it's normally you're picking up and you're delivering one place. Any place you stop to make a delivery over and above where you're getting emptied out, it's an extra $40. Retention pay starts after 24 hours. And I think it's more for independent contractors because, you know, they're leasing the truck. So I think it's like $100 a day. I can't remember. I'm just drawing a blank on what it is for company drivers, but it starts on the second day. And the thing is, because we're getting you 3,000 miles a week, there's very few times that you're going to be laying over. We have twice as many trailers in our fleet as we have tractors. So when you're going in to pick up a meat load, a beer load like an Anheuser-Busch, or a carpet load, or the meat load, we have trailers already sitting there that have been preloaded. So when you come in with an empty trailer, instead of bumping a dock and sitting there 4 or 5 hours to be loaded into that empty trailer you brought in, you drop the empty on the empty lot, you go over to the loaded lot, pick up the loaded trailer, and you're out of there within an hour. And that's how we optimize the log, the trailers, and whatever to get you that 3,000 miles a week.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's pretty rare that you guys actually have to deal with.
I can remember maybe in 13 years about 4 times where I had, retention pay or layover pay.
That's
good. It just, we don't have a real big fleet, and we got a lot of loads, and we plan everybody out, and we stay on top of it. One thing I didn't mention, we have a computer on that truck that has your logging, it has your GPS, and it has your messaging system. And the messaging system, the driver managers keep in touch with the drivers and vice versa. So you're getting messages every day on where you're picking up, what you're picking up, when you're picking it up, where you're getting fuel, how much fuel, what routes you're taking, where you're going to empty out. And let's say you pick up a load in Colorado, say in Fort Morgan, and you're taking it to Atlanta. You've got all the information to get to Fort Morgan, all the information to get fuel and get to Atlanta. But when you're headed to Atlanta and you come through St. Louis, you start getting messages on what you're doing after you deliver in Atlanta. So when you roll into Atlanta in the middle of the night, you're not going, well, gee, I got here in time, but where the heck am I going next? You've already gotten that information that you're going to go up to Dalton and pick up a carpet load, or you're going to go up to Cartersville and pick up an Anheuser-Busch beer load and head back. So we never have you in a situation where you're sitting wondering what you're going to do next. You've got that information ahead of time.
Very cool. We got another question about truck maintenance and repair for company drivers. How does that work?
All right. They're getting messages on when the trucks need to come in, for preventive maintenance, or, when it needs, tires and whatever. So we keep all that information. You get those messages, days ahead of time. and then we just plan it on being done in the normal course of you delivering loads. Like we go into Petros and TA truck stops and can have the trucks maintained. You can go into Kenworth and have them maintained, or any one of our three terminals. At Pilot and Flying J, they just have places to park, to get fuel, to get something to eat. They don't have service bays. And Love's have tire shops. So you got places on the road, and we just do it naturally in the course of your work. Now, when you're a independent contractor or owner operator, you're paying a little bit for fuel, and it comes out no matter how high fuel gets. We put a fuel surcharge credit in your pay so that it offsets the price of fuel. Fuel costs between 68 and 72 cents a gallon for fuel, no matter how high it goes up. If it was any more than that, everybody would park their trucks. So you don't have to worry about it being $3, $5, $10. You're paying under 75 cents a gallon for fuel. Company drivers don't pay for any fuel. And then one of the things we do when you're leasing a truck is we pull 4 cents a mile out of your pay and put it aside in a escrow account just for you and your truck to maintain that truck. And the trucks have a $750,000 5-year warranty, bumper to bumper. It even includes if you need a tow, it covers the price of the tow into the shop. So we have a very good plan for maintenance, and we keep you up to date with that messaging system on the computer.
Very good. Great questions, guys. All right, Jem. Well, I will let you get back to enjoying your evening. I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and we will be in touch probably tomorrow. Get you set up for some time to come in and talk to the class that's here in school.
That sounds great. Well, thank you, and I appreciate being invited. And I wish everybody out there to have a great career. And again, I don't know. Have you given them my phone? I don't mind if they have my phone number if they've got additional questions. Bottom line is I'm interested in everybody having the opportunity to be as successful as I was out there driving a truck. And good luck, everybody.
Fantastic, Jim. Really appreciate you joining us tonight. We have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So we are going to continue on with the rest of our webinar here. A little bit about who we are here at National Training. We were incorporated in 1978 as a proprietary post-secondary vocational education institution. So we just hit 45 years back in May. We are committed to providing a strong curricula with programs that emphasize practical, usable skills with a relevant general education foundation. We have a caring environment with personal attention and close faculty-student interaction with an open-door admission policy, and there's always a class starting soon. We start classes every 4 weeks like clockwork. Hit the right button here. Hold on just a second. Like I said, we just celebrated 45 years. We have successfully trained over 40,000 men and women since 1978. We have a 98% course completion rate and an astonishing 100% job placement rate in their chosen field of truck driving and heavy equipment. We have this fantastic 1.25 mile private highway. That's where you're going to learn how to upshift, downshift, and stop a 70-foot tractor trailer by the end of your first week. We do still train in manual transmissions here. I know, like TransAm said, a lot of the industry is automatic. However, there's still a lot of companies out there that have mixed fleets. We don't want anybody leaving here with any kind of restrictions because there's a law that states if you test in an automatic, that's all you're allowed to drive. So we are still firm believers in making sure everybody learns how to drive those manual transmission tractor trailers. Might say, why drive a truck for a living? And simply put, it's job security. We have a ton of different trucks around here. We get a little bit of everything, different makes and models. We have everything from a cab over engine with a sleeper cab, conventional condos, your standard sleeper cabs, day cabs, and Class B. Most people that come here have never been in any kind of big truck or tractor trailer, so they have their first experience here. When you're in a truck that's equipped for being over the road, you're going to have bunks. Typically, it's a 2-bunk system. Like you see here, there's one up here, one down here, double bunks here. Might fold up so we can have a table, maybe some chairs. The captain's chairs usually sometimes will swivel around so you can use it as seating. Most of them have microwaves, refrigerators, maybe a TV, lots of storage because, like Jim mentioned, it's basically your residence while you're in that truck. Different driving jobs, you can haul freights of all different kinds. We can have a Class A license. You can do trailers, flatbeds, tankers, refrigerated units, or intermodal. School qualifications. We do review everyone's driving record and criminal background check. Of course, your physical abilities, got to have that DOT physical. Everybody has to take a drug screen before they come to school. We usually send you there the week before you come to class. And most importantly, we want to know your intensity to succeed. We ensure that you can benefit from our program before you start school. And the way we do that is making sure that you're employable. That's why we do these background driving checks, because we want to make sure companies are going to be able to hire you once you leave here. Our program is 4 weeks long, and it is a hands-on, what we call residence training program. We have our backing pad where we teach you how to do all of your backing maneuvers, our pre-trip areas. We have close student faculty interaction. When you're in the driving trucks that are going over the road, it's 4 students per instructor. So 4 students per truck. You'll have a student like this, driving, instructor, in the passenger seat. And in the back, where there's typically your bunks, we have it equipped with 3 additional air ride seats so that you guys are in the trucks with each other, learning how to drive. You're watching the other drivers to see what mistakes they made and how those are corrected. So you really do learn a lot being in the back seat as well. Again, with our campus, we have this 1.25-mile track. We have 350 acres of land here, right along the St. Johns River, off of County Road 209 South, right here in Green Cove Springs. We've got our here, our truck lineup. This is what our classroom looks like down here. You're going to have 2 to 3 people per table. We're going to provide you with everything you need: your books, a notepad, a pen, a highlighter, pretty much everything you need. I always say just come with a good attitude and a willing to learn, and you'll do just fine. We also have our state-of-the-art simulator that we utilize. Most of the time it's used for our Class B program, but we do utilize it for our Class A program for anybody who might be having some difficulty with a particular subject. Maybe they're having some problems with backing or turn navigation. We'll get them in there with one of our instructors on the simulator and work out any of those kinks that they have. Career Services, that's my department here. We have been perfecting our graduate to work program for over 45 years, and it really does work. We start working with students on the very first day of class. We will do everything from one-on-one private counseling sessions. We have lots of different companies that come in and talk to you while you're here in class. So we want to make sure that you're a good match for both the company and the student. We want to make sure you can stay with that company for a year right out of the gate. We are always all about jobs. We have a job board that we post every week. It's truckschool.com/jobs. So you can actually go on and take a look at that and see what's out there available. We also work directly with Driver Pulse or 10 Street, where we can actually help you send applications to trucking companies. If you're coming from out of town, we do get a lot of people from out of town. We have our hotel that we partner with, the Green Cove Springs Inn. For a shared room where you're roommating with another student from the course, it's $1,082.40, and that's for the 4 weeks that you're here. So the entire 4 weeks, you can stay there on the weekends if you need to, if you're coming from that far away. Some people go home on the weekends and visit with family, do the laundry, all that fun stuff. Got some nice patios out back with barbecue grills and umbrellas with the tables. So we make sure that you have all the comforts that you need while you're there. You can get a private room. It's $1,544.40 for the private room for the 4 weeks. Now the big question: how much is school going to cost me? The tuition itself is $7,995. We do have an administrative fee, getting a little tongue-tied today, of $100. What that is that's what we're using to pull your driving record, your background check, all of that fun stuff. So that brings the total to $8,095. There are a few other out-of-pocket expenses. First and foremost is going to be your drug test. Like I mentioned, everybody has to take a drug test before you come to school. That's going to be $65. You pay that to us. We're going to give you a donor pass. That's what you take to the lab where you go to take your drug test. Your third-party state test, that's your driving test at the end. We have state testers here on staff. Typically, it's $450. We do discount it for our students of $150. That brings it down to $300. So your total out-of-pocket expenses are $365. That brings your grand total to $8,460. Financing options. We have a variety of different options for you to pay for coming to school. We have guaranteed financing for pretty much everybody, whether it be in-house financing, outside financing with banks or credit unions. We work with a company called Mia Share. That's based on credit. They also have an option that is an income share agreement. WIOA, that's WorkSource or Career Source. We work with the VA. If you are a veteran, you just need your DD 214 and your certificate of eligibility to show that you have benefits available. We also work with VA Voc Rehab and vocational rehab. Cash is definitely our most popular option. 66% of our students pay cash, whether it be with a check or credit card, or they bring in, dollar bill cash. A lot of people like that option because it gets everything out of the way. If you're putting it on a credit card, you can get some points, like your rewards points and things like that. So we have that option as well. We have industry recognition, time-tested proprietary teaching methods with companies and jobs in our expansive 350-acre facility. We always appreciate our students from the Veterans Affairs, a North Florida Community Action Agency, Vocational Rehab, Career Source of Florida, St. John's River State College. That's a new partnership that we have. We're loving that for sure. And the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Indian Affairs. National training is where trucking companies come for new drivers. Like TransAm, we have relationships with a ton of different companies. There's about 150 of them that we work with on a pretty regular basis. Usually anywhere from 7 to 10 companies will come and talk to you while you're here in class. Like Jim said, start applying even ahead of time. You can never apply too early. We're going to work with you on that, get you in touch with a lot of different great companies based off of what you're looking for. If anybody has any questions about the school, you can raise your hand. I'll be happy to call on you, or you can enter it into the question box. While we wait on that, I'm going to go over a couple of special announcements. Our next webinar is going to be 2 weeks from tonight with Steve Loftus from CRST. So that'll be on Tuesday, October the 24th at 6:30. Be another great webinar. We have an open house event coming up on December the 9th. We had one this past Saturday, so we do it every other month. Our next one, like I said, December the 9th, that'll be from 9 to 12. Usually have a couple of companies come in. We're going to let you go for a ride in the tractor trailers. We'll even get you out there to operate a piece of heavy equipment because, like I said, we do offer that as well. You can bring your family, bring kids. We love having the kids out here for open house. They just get such a kick out of getting in the tractor trailers, and we even put them on the tractors and let them dig a hole. It's a great time, so definitely come see us for our next one on December the 9th. Jimmy, I see your question. What is the steps that must be taken in place before starting school? So the first thing you need to do, if you have not done so already, go to truckschool.com. Pretty simple, truckschool.com. The top of the page, there's a button that says, Do I qualify? That's the first step, is filling out that form. That'll get you in touch with one of our admissions advisors, and what they'll do is they'll go over what would be needed to get you into school. To answer your timeline question, Jimmy, it usually, give them a couple weeks. When you apply, from the time you apply to the time you start class, typically a couple weeks. Granted, we have classes that start every 4 weeks. So usually, as long as you have everything, the ball rolling 2 weeks before our class start date, we can usually get you into it. So there's lots of flexibility there as well, though. We can definitely work with you on what will work best for you. All right. Well, I would like to thank all of you guys for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, or if you want to reach out to our admissions team, give us a call first thing tomorrow, 904-272-4000. Again, that's 904-272-4000. You can also visit truckschool.com. There's a lot of information on that website, and fill out that Do I Qualify form, and we'll definitely help you out and get the ball rolling to get you guys behind the wheel of a truck and start your new career. Well, I thank you guys for joining us tonight. Super easy to leave the webinar. There's a red button towards the bottom of your screen that says leave, or you can go to File, Exit, Leave Webinar. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you. Have a great night, everybody.